Well, it wasn't actually in the Army, I was in the cavalry.
Right.
And that was separate from the Army at that time. But that's what I was in, the First Cavalry Division. Well, I had tried for the Japanese on Pearl Harbor. A bunch of us at George Washington High School tried to enlist. And I went to the Air Force first. And I passed everything and was being sworn in when they stopped the swearing ceremony just because of me. They had made a mistake in my eyes. Instead of 120/20, they had me down as 20/20. The one was hidden. I had to come home very sadly on the bus when my friend was sworn into the Air Force. So then I tried the Army, and we took a bunch of tests. And then went over to Maryland to a huge stadium. And so a sergeant came out and started, he said, when I call your names, fall over in that corner of the stadium. You're in the U.S. Marines. So he called all these odd names. And he said, now the next names go in that corner, you're in the Navy. So he started calling all those names. And then all of a sudden, we figured, well, there was nobody left except the Boy Scouts and the Army. But he called all these names anyhow, mispronouncing them, Polish names. And there were 5 of us left. And we were in the cavalry. And because we could tell a dot from a dash in the test that we took, so we were in the cavalry needed radio operators. So I went to Fort Riley, Kansas,
Okay.
and trained.
So you were 17 when you started.
Yeah, 17.
17. So your dad had a sign?
Dad signed with the agreement that I promised I would not do 2 things. I would not be a Marine, which he hated, and I would not get a tattoo. Because he claimed that after the war, I would get a job and the boss would invite me to his house and here's this tattoo. And he hated tattoos. So I agreed.
And you didn't get a tattoo?
I didn't get a tattoo.
Okay.
I was in a barracks with about 30 people, just for the 16 weeks, because we divided our time between riding horses and learning how to operate the radios. And one was as hard as another, because when riding horses we had to listen to commands like stand to heel. That means you stood behind your horse at attention. Then he'd say, we had a rag called a dock rag, and we had to go in and wipe out the eyes, ears, and nose of the horse. Then he'd say, stand to heel. We'd run behind the horse again. Then he'd say, clean the back, barrel, and belly. So we'd get the back and the barrel and the belly underneath. Then we had to do the feet. You go down and press a tendon, the horse would raise up his foot. We'd take part of the brush and clean it. Then he'd say, move in and clean out the dock. Well, I didn't know what a dock was, but a dock happens to be a tail. And I had the only mare in the outfit, and she was a little sensitive when anybody took a rag in the back of her. So that's another story. But I learned the dot dash, and of course the alphabet has changed now. They had Abel, Baker, Charlie, Dog, Easy, Fox, George, Hal. I remember that alphabet, but they've changed it now.
So after you did 16 weeks of training in Kansas, where did you go next?
Back for 1 week at home. And then I went back to Kansas and got on a train heading to California.
From Virginia?
From Virginia. And the train had all its windows down, and dark, because we crossed over the Great Salt Lake and you could not see. It was blind. You were blinded. I think the engineer closed his eyes too, but that was very bright. And then when I got to California, I went to Fort Ord, and all of a sudden they gave us winter clothes. And even though I was no longer had a horse, they took it away from me, I had boots and dark wools, and we were supposed to be fooling the enemy. So we got on the ship, we headed to where we didn't know where. Off of Hawaii, we found out the captain came on and said, this ship was reported sunk 12 miles off of Hawaii. We are now 12 miles off of Hawaii. Everybody got up and put on their life jackets because we were sitting on them because the decks were hard. But we didn't sit on them any longer because that ship was, evidently the submarine was misled.
What, do you know what ship you went to New Guinea on? Do you know what the name of that ship was?
I can't remember for sure. The Sea Wolf, SS Sea Wolf. It was a bucket. I mean, they built ships out of those Liberty ships, and they were, the cots were like this, you know, when you're in. The guy up above me coming back, he had a monkey. How up there, that damn monkey starts peeing. And, jeez, I slept out on the deck. And finally, I even, I shouldn't say this, but I slept in the captain's gig. It was up on like tripods, so when nobody was looking, I just climbed up the ladder, got in his gig and slept. And another time I slept under a lifeboat, because you could breathe out there. The inside was, because they, you know, the latrines were one big trough of water with holes, but somebody would always put a whole newspaper in there and light it. And so the ship was going back and forth, and so you're sitting there and all of a sudden you feel this heat under your body, and your testicles are burning up from this newspaper. There's this monster newspaper there. So yeah, I slept on the deck when I could.